A common complaint of Google's Pixel phones is that they don't do enough to justify their high price tags. So what if you could get most of what makes a Pixel great for significantly less cash? I've been using the Google Pixel 3a and 3a XL for the past month, and I've got to say, outside of one or two relatively small areas, this has been a really faithful recreation of what I enjoyed so much about the regular Pixel 3 and Pixel 3 XL. In fact, depending on your priorities, there are a few good points for buying these instead of the more expensive Google phones. So this time we've got a 5.6-inch Pixel 3a and a 6-inch Pixel 3a XL. Both run a Snapdragon 670 processor, which is basically an underclocked version of the higher-end Snapdragon 710, with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. Both are plastic, though you wouldn't really know it from the hand feel compared to the metal and glass Pixel 3s. The biggest tell actually is the weight. Going from the humongous 190-gram OnePlus 7 Pro, the Pixel 3a XL feels almost comically light. It's kind of a refreshing change. Oh, and you get a real actual 3.5mm headphone jack too. I'm mainly using wireless headphones these days, but I know this will make a lot of people happy. Just don't hold your breath for this feature to carry over to the Pixel 4 later in the year. As for audio-visuals, the lack of front-facing speakers makes these phones' large bottom bezels a little tougher to justify, but the volume and richness of the sound from the bottom-firing speaker and the earpiece tweeter is pretty decent. You won't be able to fill out an entire room with the sound from the 3A or 3A XL, but it's also not as tinny as you might expect from a cheaper handset. The displays, they're fine, nothing special in direct sunlight, but perfectly serviceable 1080p panels in both models. And no notch, though that does come at the expense of larger bezels on both sides. There's something else these phones have that the regular Pixels don't: bigger batteries. The delta with the smaller Pixel 3a versus the Pixel 3 isn't huge, less than 100 mAh in fact, but with a less power-hungry chip, the 3a is able to last longer, and the 3700 mAh in the 3a XL is almost 10% bigger than that of its big brother. Again, consider that these are running low-powered chips, and it's not surprising that I'm getting pretty great battery life out of both of them, noticeably better than the more expensive Pixel siblings. For both sizes, it's around an hour of extra use for the way I use them. I wasn't exactly getting terrible battery life out of the Pixel 3 XL, but I do appreciate the extra safety net that the 3a XL gives me when I'm using it out and about. Both Pixel 3a's ship with the same 18W USB PD charger as the high-end models for reasonably quick refills, though unfortunately there's no wireless charging included. The bigger deal with these new Pixels is what isn't different compared to the 3 and 3 XL. Going back to using these is a very familiar experience. All the Google features like Assistant, Now Playing for finding songs in the background, and of course the Pixel Launcher are exactly as I expected to find them. The Pixel UI is still great, and it's still my favourite way to experience Android. What's also important is that these phones come with Google's 3-year update promise. You're guaranteed speedy platform updates until the middle of 2022, which is pretty much unique for phones in this price bracket. Another thing largely unchanged is the exceptional Pixel camera experience. These are basically the Pixel 3's cameras with the same HDR plus goodness that makes that camera so damn good. You do lose the optional wide-angle selfie camera, but the single front-facing camera has a focal length that's right in the middle of the Pixel 3's regular and wide-angle front faces. So you kinda get the best of both worlds. I don't need to tell you that the Pixel 3 takes phenomenal photos, even in low light with the still excellent night sight mode. The same processing is running on these phones, only because the processor's slower and there's no dedicated Pixel visual core, that processing takes a little bit longer. And it means it's easier to get the Pixel 3a to kind of throttle down when taking a bunch of pictures in quick succession. It also means that computationally intensive things like portrait shots and night sight shots do take a little longer. And because you're still limited to just 4GB of RAM, the Pixel 3a will quickly dump apps out of memory in the background when you're using the camera. So the Pixel 3a's camera isn't exactly the same, it is slower, and frankly the fact that there's only one camera front and back is a compromise in itself these days. Plenty of other companies are quite happy to sell you a dual camera phone around the same price point. So there are a couple of things at play here. First, these new cheaper Pixels are able to faithfully recreate much of the Pixel 3 experience because so much of what makes those phones great is the software and not the hardware. On the other hand, it's kind of always been the case that high-end Pixels have targeted higher price points than the hardware alone could justify. Pixels were never the greatest value phones, never the best in terms of raw speed, storage capacity, battery life or the like. Google has always liked to pretend the normal rules of hardware specs didn't apply to them. So whether the Pixel 3a's unique combination of strengths make it the best phone for the price is certainly debatable, For one thing, it depends on where you are in the world. In markets like India, you can get a OnePlus 7 with higher specs, fast software updates, and a comparable camera for much less. For me personally though, if I was in the market for something around the $399 mark in the US, I'd have a hard time recommending anything besides the Pixel 3a series. That's it for now. Hit the subscribe button for more Pixel and Android Q coverage coming soon, and head to androidcentral.com for our full written review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.